We are surrounded by water, but we can't take it for granted.
We have a lot of different forms of water that we deal with in our coastal communities. When we think about integrated water management, OneWater is a big concept to try to manage the whole system instead of just thinking about the different types of water. The OneWater concept recognizes that all water is valuable to us.
And so we're looking at the interconnectivity between our different water resources. That includes water usage, that includes wastewater, that includes stormwater, groundwater, and surface water.
When we think about OneWater, we think about some of these issues with stormwater maybe causing flooding in some areas, trying to consider that water also as a resource where if we get it underground and it's not causing problems, it can also help our rivers flow and feed our wetlands.
It is a way to strengthen our water resources as a whole rather than in piecemeal. The challenges that Nags Head faces currently is we have extreme weather conditions where we have climate change and sea level rise, and these change in our environmental factors have impacts on our water resources.
After heavy rains where the groundwater is very shallow, because we rely a lot on septic systems here, whatever goes down the shower, goes down our sinks or our toilets, if we're not careful about how we manage that, it can cause contamination in our groundwater that can flow into our surface waters that we have more contact with.
They can elevate our groundwater, which affects the performance of our on-site wastewater systems, as well as the performance of our stormwater systems, which relies on the separation of our underlying sandy soils to the groundwater levels to be able to properly treat and manage stormwater runoff. When we don't have that ability to do so, then we rely on our drainage networks, which are connected to our surface waters. And so in combination, it could adversely impact our water quality.
The potential for like pet waste or waste from our septic systems to get into the creeks, and some of the contamination associated with that can be bacteria or viruses that can get us sick if we ingest that water, or if you have a cut on your hand and then that water contacts it, those wounds can get infected. So there's that aspect of we want to be careful to make it so that we can swim and fish safely.
So the town is addressing a lot of these challenges that we face over multiple areas. We recently replaced all of our water meters within town with advanced metering infrastructure. And this is infrastructure where we can look at water usage real time in order to be able to look at how much water is being used and whether there is a leak where we can go ahead and notify the homeowner that there is an issue. We've also done it through stormwater capture. At one of our sound beach accesses, we have a rainwater harvesting system, which we reuse that stormwater that we have captured for a beneficial reuse to be able to flush toilets. We've done it through planning with green infrastructure and low impact development practices. We've been able to employ that in some of our planning for our parks, Dowdy Park being one example, where we've incorporated nature-based solutions to be able to manage and treat the stormwater runoff and have that naturally built into the environment so it's not a dominant feature. When we look at some of these solutions, we don't look at it in just one spectrum. We try to look at how do we achieve multiple benefits. And so when we have a stormwater problem, how can we also achieve better performance with our on-site septic systems locally?
Big part of our program is the educational aspect, where a lot of people that moved here or bought houses here don't know that they're on septic because they might have come from an area where they were on sewer or they've never just dealt with it. Residents and property owners are offered a free inspection. It's more of a maintenance inspection, just to see if we see any visible issues, whether it's, the water level being high in the tank, if we're noticing any ponding in the drain field, if we're seeing any roots in the tank. If they have a filter, we'll clean the filter in their tank. It just has to be a conventional system. It's a good thing to have for like the educational aspect. That way I can kind of meet people, show them what they have, be able to, show like, hey, this is, if we see any issues, like the flushable wipes, like, yes, they're flushable, but they're not good for the septic systems. If we see things like that, we can point out and try to fix that problem before it gets too far gone. It could potentially lead to a clog in the drain line or something like that. And then if we do find an issue during the inspections, we have the loan to help cover some of the costs of the repair, because it's not a cheap, easy repair to do. It's a up to $12,000 loan. So if myself or one of my contractors, or if if they have their tank pumped and the pumpers tell them they're having an issue, or they're just noticing their system's not holding the water, and they've had to have it pumped 3 times in a couple months, or it's just not working like it should, they can go get a quote from any contractor they want, and get the repair permit from the county. And then once we have that, we have a bank form, a draft form they can fill out, and then they can get up to $12,000. And we just upped it to, they can have that loan for up to 5 years. No credit checks needed. They just have to be current on their town water bill and town taxes. I guess the biggest thing, the takeaway, I guess, would be, you want to keep the area as clean as possible. We got to have the environment to be able to thrive here.
Water is finite, and we have to be able to preserve and protect those water resources that we have.
When we think about One Water, I think the most important point is that all water is valuable and it's a resource to us.